So hello, my name is Thomas Hillen, and it's a great pleasure to have a friend of mine who is also from Germany, Dominik Wodarz. Guten Morgen, Dominik.
Guten Morgen.
Wie geht's?
Gut.
Please introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm Dominik Wodarz. I'm a professor in biological sciences at the University of California, San Diego, and I do research in mathematical biology, working on models of cancer evolution, cancer treatment, carcinogenesis, as well as infectious diseases and evolutionary dynamics.
Yeah, wonderful. So how did your kind of academic career start? Where did you do your degrees?
So I did my undergraduate degree at Imperial College in London in biology, and then I did my PhD in Oxford University doing mathematical biology, essentially mathematical models of virus infection and immune responses. And I continued on that path for my postdoc. And as I was working on these models of virus infection and immune responses, I started learning more and more about cancer. And then I got into cancer research.
So which means initially you did some kind of mathematical medicine more broadly, right?
Yes.
And so virus infections and so on, and then you came into cancer.
Yeah, it was always sort of biomedically oriented, but
Yeah.
all of the research is very much grounded in population dynamics, evolutionary dynamics. And so I first got fascinated actually at Imperial College looking at models of predator-prey interactions, ecological models, community ecology, and then applying that to the in vivo ecosystem, so to say, was really fascinating to me.
But then what did you get interested in cancer in particular?
Cancer in particular, I got interested in because I thought a lot of the principles that I was studying with viruses also apply to cancer. So in virus infection, for example, HIV, the disease process is driven in large part by virus evolution. The virus evolves, and so in HIV, the virus evolution contributes to the transition from the asymptomatic phase to the AIDS phase eventually. And drug resistance is a big problem in the treatment of HIV. HIV evolves very fast. Resistance has always been a problem. And in cancer, there are very similar problems. Cancer is an evolutionary disease. It arises because cells evolve to not cooperate with the rest of the organism. They become selfish, they grow, and they acquire mutations. It's a multi-step process. And then when you treat cancer, obviously one of the big problems is drug resistance and evolution of drug resistance. So the questions were quite similar. What is the chance to have a drug-resistant mutant when you start treatment? What do you have to do to prevent drug resistance? So these are some very pressing questions that are in common, and so that provided a natural bridge.
Yeah, so nowadays we talk about cancer as an ecological system. But of course, this wasn't the case years ago, right? I mean, you mentioned evolution. Evolution plays a role in ecology as well, and in species development and so on. So when did you make the connection to ecological questions in the cancer context?
Yeah, immediately. I mean, this was one of the fascinating things. I mean, it's becoming very clear from a variety of data sources that cancer is an ecological system. It's not just cancer cells that are growing, but they're interacting with a very complex microenvironment. There's communication between the tumor cells and the microenvironment. Also, tumor is heterogeneous, contains a number of different cell types, and they communicate with each other. So you have complex dynamics going on, similar to a complex ecosystem. And so this kind of thinking, I think, is really important and really useful because it can yield insights that you wouldn't be able to get if you don't think in this way.
But do you remember there was really a paradigm change, right, in the area? When these kind of thoughts came into the cancer modeling world?
Yes. Right? I think it came with the modeling, and it's now even in the experimental cancer world as sort of
it's more accepted.
Good notion. It's much more accepted now.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Very cool. Yeah. So as we talk about the medical world, do you have collaborators in medicine?
Yes, in many different places. So I always make an effort to connect with experimentalists who are working on things that I'm also thinking about, whether that's clinical people who treat patients, or whether these are people who work with experiments in mice or even in vitro, because I mean, one of the fun parts about modeling is to be able to connect it to the experiments, to gain insights that are valuable to the experimentalists, to help interpret the data, measure parameters, put numbers to what is normally described in qualitative terms. And so yes.
Yeah, to quantify this.
Yes.
So do you ever go into their labs and look around and maybe help a little bit here or there? Or?
Yeah, well, I've looked around the labs.
Yes.
I've been offered to grind up a mouse, which I did not do. Yeah. So,
okay. Yeah. I can see that.
So no, I've gone into theory, and I'm sticking to theory. But it's very important to understand what they're doing in the lab, because it's always good. You can always come up as a theoretician and say, can you do this and this experiments, without appreciating the difficulties that experimentalists face in the lab to measure things and to get to the things that we're trying to get to. So yes, it's very important.
Yeah. So how do you get in contact with these medical experts?
Either they come give a seminar and I meet with them and I
okay.
start talking with them at the university where I'm at, or I meet them at conferences. Quite often I just email them, and sometimes they reply.
Sometimes they reply,
and
right.
Collaborations have happened that way. It's actually quite often that people are quite open to interactions and to
So you just have to do it, right? Just do the first step.
And yes, you have to do the first step, and we have to be after it.
So Dominik, you have worked with a lot of students, of course, and so what would you recommend students who want to enter this area? What should they maybe focus on, or what should be the driving motivation for them?
I think what they should focus on is what they're interested in. That's what I always think, because if you're really interested in something, and if you're going after what you're interested in, then you're making a lot of progress. I think from an educational point of view, it is very useful to make this as interdisciplinary as you can. So it's important to be technically competent in computational mathematical methods, but also it's equally important to understand the biology, because if you don't understand the biology and if you're not really into it, then you won't have the intuition to ask the right questions. So I think interdisciplinary education from very early on is very, very important.
So what do you mean? So do the students now be experts in computation and math and biology and cancer?
Well, Well, they should have an understanding of the biology. Okay. I mean, if they go into theoretical, mathematical, computational biology, they don't have to be experts in experimental methods, but one should be able to kind of read a paper, understand the paper, and also talk to biologists and experimentalists.
Yeah.
Because there is a divide between the way theoreticians and mathematicians talk to each other about the modeling work and then the experimental world. And one of the important parts is to bridge that divide and to be able to communicate across disciplines. And for that, you need to sort of understand it.
I agree. Oh, this is nice. Yeah. So now many universities have special programs like in math modeling or so. Do you have that at your university?
Yes, we have that on various levels. We have a PhD program in bioinformatics and systems biology. Even the biology PhD program has a track in quantitative biology. We have a focus on mathematical biology in the math department, and we have a whole biophysics group that does quantitative biology and has PhD programs. So there's a lot of opportunities to go in from many different angles, and it's very close to the beach.
It's very you shouldn't say this. It's there to study.
With the surfboard. It's actually interesting because we have the Scripps Institute for Oceanography pretty close, and they're literally on the beach, and people have surfboards in there.
I see. Okay. So do you have a surfboard in your office?
No, I don't. No, I don't surf.
Excellent. I have one more question, Dominik, is about books. So you have written several books. One I looked at closely. I'm teaching here at Fields the graduate course in math oncology. So I looked at your book with Natalia. What was it called? Cancer modeling, or what?
It's called Principles of Mathematical Oncology.
Principles of Mathematical Oncology. Like exactly. Yeah. So I like it a lot. It's good. But you have a few more books. You want to talk about those?
Yeah, I have a similar book on viruses. Virus dynamics, immune system dynamics, in particular, how immune responses interact with viruses and how to understand immune control of viral infections. That's the main other part. I also have another book co-authored with Natalia again on models of treatment
Or like
of
case
tumors.
studies, right?
Yeah,
It's kind
yeah,
of a
case studies. Is like,
thing.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
good
And
too,
it
yeah.
has treatment, drug treatment. There's also oncolytic virus therapy, which is something I've worked on quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's in there.
So what's the next book then?
For now, there are none planned. I mean, this is an awful lot of work.
Isn't it? Yeah, right.
It requires so much effort.
Was there anything else you wanted to say?
The field of cancer modeling is very fascinating, and if people are interested in it, they should definitely pursue this. There are lots of opportunities. I think it's a field that is rising at a significant rate at this stage. And also, I mean, another thing that I might want to point out is that it doesn't have to be just a focus on cancer modeling, but I think the thinking across disciplines is very important. So obviously, evolutionary biology is a topic that's very, very central to cancer evolution, and that's also being recognized in the experimental world right now. And there's actually a lot of progress has been made in understanding how evolutionary processes occur in spatially structured populations, which is a bit more abstract than looking at clinical data in cancer, but nevertheless very important in cancer research, because if you think about how resistance evolves, and if you want to make predictive models of how resistance evolves and make patient-specific predictions on treatment outcome, you have to understand how the tumor evolves in a spatially structured population. There's still much unknown and lots of work to be done.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting discipline, for
Yes,
sure.
yeah.
So then, thank you very much for your time and
Yeah.
for your wonderful interview.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to chat.
Yeah, likewise. Awesome.